All right. This is July the 10th, 2020, and we are all gathered here together. We have come together for an AACG meetup, and this meetup is about our collection. So thank you everyone who submitted 1, 2, 3, up to 10 images, I think. And Tim Tate, who is our head of the Washington Glass School and an internationally known artist in his own right, has put this together in an exhibition which he also has posted on 21st Century Glass. So Tim, I'm going to turn it over to you, and thank you so much. I know this was a lot of work, and we do so appreciate it.
It was my pleasure, although I got so many more than I thought I would over 5 different ways that weren't supposed to get to me, and some texted. So everyone, if you put things in, I've tried to make sure everybody got something in. If I screwed up somebody, I so apologize. But let me tell you, there were just so many images and so many ways they came in. So here we go. And these are the images of nature. And the reason we're doing this is because one of the things all of us love from our heart was when we had bus tours to these people's, all your all's collections, right?
Yes.
How many bus tours you got on and loved every second of it? We can't do that now. So this is our little weird way of doing a Zoom bus tour. All right, I'm taking over your screen for images of nature. All right. That's not the right one. Hold on. There's the right one. Can you see my screen now?
I can see your screen, and it's a Tim Tate I'm looking at.
Ooh, all right, let's just get out of that and go to here. All right, let me just figure out what just happened. On my screen, it shows the other.
If that happens, sometimes you have to unshare and share again.
Okay, I'm going to unshare and share again. Hold on, I got to get to that now.
Tim, by the way, has a brand new computer that he just installed yesterday. Is that correct?
That is, and unfortunately, it has its own little issues.
Which we are experiencing right now. How wonderful.
I can't even find the Zoom where it was.
Well, I might show a picture of Miriam De Fiore, my little video, while you're doing that. How about that?
I find wherever Zoom went to when I went to get the push on that share screen. Go for it.
Okay, I'm going to stop your sharing. And I'm going to share for a second. Let me get mine up so we can make sure I've got, yes, there it is. Okay, so I'm going to share the screen. I submitted a Miriam De Fiore piece, but I couldn't, the video was too big. So are you all seeing my screen?
No. No.
Ah, well, maybe screen sharing isn't working at all for anything. Let's see.
It's not coming up. I've shared it twice now. We try again. Hold on.
Oh my goodness.
All right. How about now?
I'm going to stop the recording and start it over again. I don't know what's happening.
Oh, no. Can you share your screen?
I'm trying. I thought that's what I did, and it wouldn't let me do it either. So, oh, there we go.
Miriam De Fiore is up.
Tim's is working.
Oh, good. Well, I'll just leave Tim's then. So,
there we go.
Fabulous.
Okay, here we go. I'm moving this out of the way. So you all see this beautiful piece by Miriam De Fiore on your screen?
Yes.
Thank God. Okay. All right, well, so Marilee Orsini's. So Marilee, tell us a little bit about this piece, since I intend to do something like it shortly. So tell people about it.
This is actually the very first piece that Miriam De Fiore sold. And Rick and I were in Venice with the family for Christmas and New Year's. And we saw this and just fell in love with it. But it has been my favorite piece for a long time. I now have a new favorite, but it has been my favorite piece for a long time. But it sits, I mean, it's nature right there. It's all mirrored. You can look at it. It just looks like you're at a creek in the wilderness. So it is just beautiful.
What it is, if I'm right, it's an endless mirror box with the back, a window under the scene behind her house.
Yes.
The scene behind her house now is in the endless mirror box, endlessly shared. There you
yes.
go. Okay. Done with number 1. I'm moving on. Aaron Shea, Janis Miltenberger. Go for it, buddy.
Hey, this is a beautiful Janis Miltenberger that I'm a big fan of, and there are 4 in this series, and one of them is owned by the Flint Institute of Arts in Flint, Michigan. And this is her hobby of herbology, discovering what herbs help heal human remedies. And this particular herb, which I don't have the title for it on the screen, helps with lungs and breathing. And so the herb on top, design on top is the herb, and the root system in this particular piece represents the lungs, as you can kind of see. And she did 4 in the series. There was lungs, eyeball, heart, and liver. And they're very beautiful, and they're mounted to a box that hangs on the wall.
Where are the other 3?
The other 3 are with us at the gallery at Habitat, and 1 is at Flint.
All right. Moving on. Okay, Bobby and Lee Tenner, I know you're there.
Remember to unmute yourself.
Patient and imaging.
There, you're unmuted. I can hear you.
Okay, great. So this is Emily Brack, her springtime series of 4 that she did. This was spring. And of course, you see how it is nature. And what we love so much is the trees are made of the real sparkly green, so that when the light comes in the windows, it changes during the day. And we really get to see like a movement of the daily sun. It's quite beautiful, I think.
Gorgeous, Emily Brock, really.
It is just gorgeous.
Big fan of her work. I love her stuff.
And remember, everybody who sent me 20 images, I only can use 1 or 2 from people. So you're going to see not all the images you might have sent. I won't say who that's directed to. You know who you are. Okay, moving forward. Okay, Richard and Eve Clyde. A gorgeous gal Benetton. Go.
Yeah, it's kind of an abstraction, so you can read it any way you want. I chose to read it as the sun being paired with the moon. You could look at it as flowers bursting open. But I like the celestial idea that it takes you through the day and into the night. And the light comes through beautifully, and you see the core of the sun has the redness, and the core of the moon has the cool blueness. So it's just a breathtaking panel, about 3 feet by 1.5 feet.
Wow, nice size. You know, he once told me that the grids of those little squares were when he flew over the Midwest, the fields that were all tilled. That was one of the things he was referencing. So
Yes, I read that too. I'm sure he did, but I just took it to another place.
gorgeous. All right, moving on. It seems fast, but we have so many to go through. I'm not trying to push people. All right, move on.
Minna. Yeah, Ron's at a meeting, sorry. These are obviously Flora and Joey. We were lucky enough to be in their studio a number of years ago when Gas did a collector's tour in Seattle, and there were even larger ones there. These are about 26, 28 inches in diameter. And we got the apple first from, I don't know how you say it, Rago. And then the peach showed up a year later, and I was like, oh my gosh, we just have to have it. So the apple sits on top under the LED light, and then the peach is beneath it. So they're right next to it in our family room. And they just make us happy every day. Incredible technique in a pretty large format.
Is the peach fuzzy, Mina?
It is a little bit. It's frit, and it has. I don't ever dust it. I just sort of look at it. Yeah, it has a bit of a rough surface to it. And of course, being here in North Carolina, we're eating tons of South Carolina peaches now, so it's really special.
I don't know this.
Anyone have anything to say on what we've seen so far? Comments? All right.
Somebody's not muted, so you need to make certain you are muted, unless you want to speak.
Okay, here we go. Arlene and Norm, you guys are up.
Remember to unmute.
How do we unmute it?
Oh, we
You are
got it.
unmuted.
Good. We're unmuted. Okay. So this is an eagle by Eva Fishakova. And the eagle is the king of the birds in nature. And so we thought that was very apt. And we put it in front of our study window, and that background is a golf course, which is, of course, the king of sports of nature sports. So we thought they went well together. Tim, do you have the other photo up also?
But both, or it would have made it so small. So
Oh, okay. Well, there's 5 windows, and on each side of the eagle is a Spacies series by Lebinsky Brocktober, and then flanking those is Head 5 and Blue Man by Jan Exner. And when the sun comes in, all the colors, yellow, blue, reds, and the grays just they light up the room. In fact, if you're looking at a picture of us, you can see one of the series,
the Spacies.
Spacies series and the Head 5. And the room is just beautiful, and it's off of our bedroom, so that in the morning, that's what we wake up to, these 5 great pieces of nature.
Except today when we're in the middle of a big storm.
Yeah.
It looks beautiful even in a storm. I'll move in anytime you get sick of it.
Arlene?
Excuse me?
Arlene or Tim, it's Malcolm Bund here. I wonder if direct sunlight does anything to affect the glass over time. In other words, if sun's coming directly in the glass, we have the same beautiful opportunity as you do there. And I just wondered if the direct sunlight does anything to impair the inherent value and color of the glass.
Well, we've had the 2 Spacies pieces and the Head 5 piece in practically the same spot for, I would say, 15
years.
15 years. Has never changed the color nor the glass. And so we felt that it was safe. We redid that window. You could see all my glass, start of my glass book collection beneath it. It used to be a window seat. So the glasses actually moved closer to the outdoors, and we have not seen any change at all, nor any cracks or anything like that.
It can change acrylic, but I don't think once the glass is there, you're going to change it with sun. It almost cries out to be in the sun. I've never seen one fade in the sun.
Tim, can I say something? It's Robin.
Hi, Robin.
Hey, Merrily. The only thing you have to be careful of is if you have optical magnification. So if there's any lenses carved into something, then you can get burn points when the sun comes through. That's the only thing I would mention.
I did
one additional thing to be careful of is if you get bright, hot sun shining on just a part of the glass and not the whole thing, then you can get temperature changes that will cause harm.
I want to second that remark. This is Eva about the optical magnification. I actually had a burn mark on a table from a piece of glass that I allowed to sit in front of the window. So you really have to think about whether the light is passing through it and hitting any wood.
And it's not.
That's
okay. And it's not. They're just
but otherwise
all by themselves in this beautiful setting. We haven't seen any problems at all. The only problem we did have, it was very funny, was that before we changed everything, we had the Spacies pieces on pedestals. And because they were on pedestals, I had put museum wax. So if anybody bumped into the pedestal, they wouldn't fall. Oh, that's me. So so that they were like that for about 10 years. And so when we went to remove them from the pedestal, we couldn't. The museum wax had melted and and made a huge seal. It was unbelievable. So I spoke to Greg Nangle, who is a glass artist here in Philadelphia, a wonderful fellow, and he suggested an acetate that we just put around it and let it sit for a while, and then we were able to remove them.
Okay, we'll move on. Everybody ready? Thank you, Arlene. Oh, all right, Michael Janis. Not me.
Yeah. This is a piece that Tim Tate had made. He was commissioned by a DC collector couple, and they wanted something in his Endless Mirrors series. And so this piece has a tremendous visual depth to it because it is reflecting onto itself endlessly into there. And I know that in the imagery that he has, because he's relying on a lot of his florals, he does do a lot of work that is in florals. But this one, I think the color palette was based on a garden that he had been to that summer before. So it was almost like referencing a specific frame of mind. And I know that when he was working on it in the studio, it had so much interest that the UPS guy would stop and take his camera out so he could photograph it because he just was so charmed by it. And a lot of these pieces do have that visual punch that really draws people in. And you can just keep on looking back into the piece. I mean, Tim, is there something that that you can add to that story about this piece?
More than possible. I'd rather have someone else talk about my work than me. I'm happy with that. It was a lovely commission. I love doing commissions. They were a lovely couple. I'm moving on. Okay. This is a new emerging artist who is part of our board, or part of our membership. So are you there, Rochelle?
Yes, we're here.
There you go. Tell us about your piece.
Well, we go snorkeling in the Virgin Islands a lot. And one time when we were there, we went out and sort of there were rocks and in the middle of the rocks, there was this beautiful, serene little place with the fish just going in and out and the piece of coral and everything. And it just made me happy. So ever since, I've called it Happy Valley. And every time we're there, we go and check it out. So I made this piece. It is fused glass. It is, I think, 5 layers. And it has, well, on the front, it's the first layer is the school of blue tang. And behind that are 2 squid. Squid, I mean, people think of them as ugly, but when they're swimming in the water and they have these diaphanous wings, they are amazingly beautiful. And anyway, someplace in the very back, I have a barracuda just for a little bit of reality. But that was, there
we go.
That was my little bit.
So this time, by the way, we have allowed artists to show. Normally I didn't in the past, but now artists are allowed on this particular night to show their own work. Thank you so much for that.
Oh.
Darren Carmazon. You there, girl?
1.5 minutes.
Well, they've got like 50 different pieces on there.
Yeah.
They've already used 20 minutes, so.
Well, good. I'm glad this came.
Rochelle, you might want to turn off your mic.
Yeah, Rochelle, you guys unmute yourselves, please. Or mute yourselves.
Sharon's here today, but we have an amber color, and you all know amber. So, another pretty piece. Judy Heller, Robin Grieve. Are you here?
I'm here. And I adore this piece, and it's my story for this piece. To me, it's all about freedom, and the countryside is so verdant, and the birds are flying free without any constraints. They go where they want, they do what they want, and the woman is a little bit forlorn, and I think that's because we in our society live with constraints. And this piece is in my kitchen, and I see it all the time, and I absolutely adore it.
You know, I would say that Robin Grieve was the most frequent image sent for this. I could not put up all the Robin Grieves.
Yeah.
So,
He's the artist, Robin.
there we go. So, Judy, you are our representative to Robin. Thank you so very much. Debbie, another artist amongst us.
Hi. This piece I call Through the Storm, and it sits in my front hall for the last 10 years. Everyone that comes into my home sees it. To me, it represents courage, resilience, and survival. It's a wing. I think it's about 30 inches by 12. And it's special in a couple of ways because I'm an instructor at the Corning Museum of Glass studio. And this was the first large-scale piece that I made there. I so love the people there. I mean, I miss them so much. They've just been such great friends and supportive of my work for over 40 years at the Corning Museum of Glass and over 24 years at the studio. So this means a lot to me. It has 3 little birds that are going from this kind of gray sky into the sun. And the wing represents kind of the uplift that we all can create, especially now, you know. So it seems like I make pieces and 10 years later, they become relevant. So this piece, I think now is a great for this time for all of us.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Okay, I get the total pleasure of presenting a new Michael Janis piece, which is so freaking gorgeous. This, as you know, was a commission by Aaron Shea for his wife. And he did this beautiful Gustavian Klimt kind of falling skirt. I think it's one of the most amazing pieces Michael's ever done, especially as a commission, which is just amazing because sometimes commissions spiral an artist off into a direction they might not have thought about. But for Michael, I got to believe he's going to think about this style again because that is really one of the most beautiful pieces Michael Janis ever done. So I'm just throwing that out for giving a little Michael Janis love.
Thank you. Thank you. It was a great, I actually have changed my work a little bit. Sometimes the commissions do make it go into different directions. And I'm just really happy that they had responded well as this piece was being made.
Michael, this should be a new series. Keep it going.
Okay, thank you.
Michael, what's the size of this?
20 by 40. So 20 inches wide by 40 inches high. 20 by 30.
Absolutely exquisite.
Try not to have one of these in your studio when I come to visit, Michael. If it's not for sale.
I love it here in Knoxville, Michael. It's beautiful.
That's good. I think I will be working on this.
I think you just heard, yes. I say make it bigger. All right, here we are, moving on. Thank you so much, Michael. He's very easy to work with on commission.
Michael, how long does it take you to make that?
We are.
I was given a time because it was supposed to be done for her birthday, but I missed her birthday by a couple weeks. I think it was probably took me about a month, a little bit over a month.
Okay.
And he worked hard during that month on it too. I mean, this wasn't.
Well, we had a lockdown, so suddenly I had all the kilns available.
That's over. Okay.
The flowers are mounted. They're either with UV glue for a lot of them for that because I just want to be putting it in place. Normally I use Hextol for a lot of those, but since there were so many and they were smaller, I just used the UV glue on them.
Okay. Any other questions? Moving on. Arthur and Nancy Sherman. Are they on today?
They are, and I think I just muted people that were talking, and there was Nancy, so you might. There you go.
There you go. All right, you're on, Nancy.
Did you unmute yourself, Nancy?
Some people don't want to speak about this, so this may be.
No, he's.
Hello?
This is his piece.
Can you hear us?
Oh, there we go. All right.
Okay. I purchased this piece originally from Jim Shantz. Jim was my guru when I first started collecting glass. And I've purchased probably 10 to 15 pieces from his gallery, but I fell in love with Shelley Allen and her animals. And this deer just attracted me. The moment I walked into his gallery, I saw it and I said to my wife, who very seldom ever says yes, she generally says, let's think about it. Well, if I can get her to think about it, I know it's going to be a yes. And finally she said, yeah, I think we'd like to have it. And we purchased the piece. It's a pretty big piece. And I love animals. We had a large house once with a that backed up to a woods. And God bless those deer that were there every day eating up all my plants. But it's a beautiful piece, and her horses are absolutely magnificent. Her animals are probably the finest I've seen, and she's fantastic.
All right, little Shelly Allen love. Thank you so much, guys. Bruce is not here today, but I put one of his Janusz's up to give Janusz a little bit of love here. I think he's getting ready to move back to Denmark, so we want to give him a big hug and, you know, for his work as well. Right, Bruce is gone, Marilee?
Yes, Bruce and his lovely wife, Judy, are on a plane coming back from Florida today. So hopefully safely.
There you go. Susan Gleeksman, it is all you, babe.
Susan, you want to unmute yourself?
Sorry. We lived on a farm, and we always heard lots of frogs at night and during the day. I love the sound of the frogs. This is a Charlie Miner, which you probably all know. And we visited Charlie in New Mexico, and this is the piece. It's our second piece of Charlie Miner. We have a giant bowl that we bought at SOFA 1 year. So the frogs have eyes. The fish on my bowl do not have eyes, and it's just a piece that I like. I like frogs.
I love Charlie Miner. I would love one of his giant carrot bowls. I would die for one of those carrot bowls, but I don't think he makes them anymore. I don't know. All right, moving forward. Thank you so much, Susan. All right, Larry and Rita, you're on.
Okay, this is Raven Sky River, and this is called Moored Seahorse. We recently got it at the Duncan McClellan Gallery last year. And Rita's always loved Raven's work. And this one just sort of speaks to us. It looks like he has a little bit of an attitude, which I like. And it's about 18 to 20 inches high.
That's a good sized piece.
We purchased the same piece from Duncan McClellan in a different color.
Oh, good. You have good taste.
Yeah, this last year when we were on the Habitat trip, it's a gorgeous piece, and Sky River's terrific.
Yeah.
That would have been great if you had both submitted different colors. That would have been fun to put up. One of those secret facts that artists do from time to time. Okay, we're moving on then, and we are back at Rita and Larry.
So this is a sort of monumental piece by Loretta Yang. And this is called Land of the Pure. And you can see the lotus blossom is all pate vert. And the base of this is optical crystal cast glass. It weighs about 300 pounds. In fact, the table came with the piece. It's a brushed stainless steel table. And it sits in our living room. It's one of our favorite pieces. It's about 30 inches high. It's fairly large. And it really speaks to nature, at least we believe so. Yeah. A lot of peacefulness in this piece.
It's one of the nicest Loretta Yangs I'd seen, so I had to put it in.
This we got from the Mark Saunders Gallery before it was just Saunders. And I think it was one of Bonnie's last exhibitions. Yeah.
All righty. Moving forward. Thank you, Larry. Anthony Cowan, you here, buddy?
Yes, I am, Tim. Nice to see you. Hi, Marilee.
Hi, Anthony. How are you?
I'm doing great. This is all very new for me. I've only been a glass art collector for about a year, barely a year now. And when I went to Habitat 47, this was one of the first pieces I saw in the exhibition. It's a beautiful bonsai by Eli Cecil, who is currently living on the east side of Florida, working at Ben Zeiton Center. And when I told Eli that I was going to be featuring this particular piece, which is known as Emerald Crescent, Eli was thrilled. He said, I'm so glad because now AACG will get to see where their grant money actually went. He said this was actually something he created while he was working on a grant from AACG. And he's currently looking for another grant to continue work that he's preparing for Habitat Florida in November. So he was really happy that it just happened to be this piece that I picked. I've always loved bonsai, but it has a special sentimental value for me because my mother, God rest her soul, used to collect bonsai, real bonsai, and had them in our conservatory room in our home in San Antonio, Texas. So when I see this, it's, as you can see, it's on the piano. It always inspires me because of the beauty of it, which is both natural and also a little bit artificial in terms of how bonsai are very deliberately clipped and trained to remain a certain size that's manageable. And as you can see, there is quite a lot of color in the base. So this is a mixture of different techniques that Eli has been mastering over the last few years. And there's blown glass, and there's quite a bit of technical prowess, I think, on display here. And I do have actually a LED colored light base underneath it. So in the evenings, it actually picks up lots of different colors, which highlight some of the details and accents that he built into the base rock that the tree is clinging to. So anyway, I hope everybody enjoys this as much as I do, and continues to support Eli Cecil as he develops his wonderful work.
Isn't it nice to see where our grants go from AACG? That is really nice. Eli is one of these up-and-comers that you all will hear. He's a very young guy. His girlfriend works at Habitat Florida. And he has done work for Habitat, for me, a bunch of other people. He's just one of those people with a magic soul. You know, everybody who meets him loves him. So keep an eye out for Eli Cecil because he's got the true heart of an artist. Christina Bain, are you here?
Yeah, that's me.
Go for it, babe.
Yeah, hello, Marilee.
Hello, how are you?
So we didn't have Sweden this year to get together. So this is my work. It's called photosynthesis, and it's all made with Perrier bottles and recycling. And it was a project that took me a long time to make and to hang and all this. And it's already been to 2 exhibitions. So, and when I created it, I thought about oxygen and how we feel our feelings. And I just, sit underneath and I just, travel. That's it.
Well, it would have been quicker if you used wine bottles.
Well, no, just Perrier bottles, just water. I thought that it was going to be an easy project, but when you have the coefficient, when you mix even the same brand, it's really hard and it breaks a lot. So it was a real challenge to make it.
Well, I'm glad you finished it. Thank you so much, Chris.
And thanks for sharing.
What's the size of this piece?
I don't know. And I think, well, normally I don't have this white structure. I didn't create it with it, but it's about, I think it's about 4 meters.
Wow.
Yeah, by two, something like this.
Big.
Yeah, it is big. Yeah.
All right. Any other questions? Thanks, Chris. A pleasure. Jack Cooperstone. My man, I know you're here.
Yeah, hi.
Hi,
everybody. This is by William Morris, one of the first pieces that we ever bought. I didn't know who William Morris was at the time, but I subsequently learned, and we bought this piece, and it's one of our favorite. It's everybody who walks into the house and they look at it, they come back and they say, you're saving ivory is definitely a no-no. And we try to explain to them, this isn't ivory, but it's glass. And it definitely looks like ivory. It's, in our opinion, it's one of his best pieces. It's not one of his radical pieces, but this is one of his best. And we really love it.
Sometimes simple, I guess for Billy Morris, this is simple. Sometimes simple pieces are the best. All right, thank you, Jack.
Pleasure.
We have a hand raised. Myra Burnson. Myra, does that mean you want to say something and you don't know how to unmute yourself if that's the case?
No, it means that I accidentally hit the button and it's trying to
Okay.
Thanks again, Jack.
Thank you, Jack.
Paul Messink, I know you're here, brother.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Paul.
This is this is one of my kind of traditional 9-layer landscapes. Usually when I paint, I do landscapes, although not all the time. This is called Gnarled Sentinels, and it was bought I think about 5 years ago by John and Judith Liebman.
I think John's here.
Yeah, feel free to chirp in there, John. What I like about this is that the trees are all bent and kind of deformed, and it reminds me of us as humans, because we're not perfect, and in some ways we all have something that is maybe bent or a little bit gnarly, but we're still beautiful. So I think being able to paint kind of misshapen trees that look beautiful is a real happy thing for me. So
I want to throw in a comment. Back when you did the commission show, Tim, I showed another Paul Messink piece, and the contrast is interesting. The one I showed then was a photograph of mine that Paul had made three-dimensional by putting it into the layers of glass. So it was a real challenge to him technically, but absolutely no challenge to his artistic abilities. This one, I think, is quite different. What attracted me to this piece is the painting, and the 3D just is icing on the cake.
There you go.
thank you, John.
High praise, Mr. Paul. Nice to have you with us today. I'm glad we had a piece of yours here. Corey, is Corey here, or you want to take this, Aaron? Are either of you here? Well, this is some Christine Bothwell love nonetheless. And everybody knows Christine Bothwell. And if anybody fits into nature, if you've ever heard Christine talk, you know that all of her pieces are somehow about nature and mystery and her children. And so a beautiful piece that Corey put in here, Corey Hampson. Now, for impressive, we should have Myra and Hal here, because this is an amazing piece.
Hi, Tim. Hi, Tim. Yes, we agree. So this is a large wall piece by Sabella Peretti. It was previously in a museum show. It measures about 60 by 80 inches, and it's composed of multiple individual panels totaling, they're about a foot square each. So the images of the Chafunkti River in Louisiana, which runs into Lake Champlain. And like a lot of her work, she, I think, is trying to show the connections between the innocence of youth and the beauty of nature. Some of this scene could be reflective or could be symbolic of the Garden of Eden in some ways. But obviously the child in the foreground and the fox on the left. I think the ropes are meant to symbolize connection between the child and nature. And I don't think what you can see is a lot of the ropes and the branches are similar to each other. So in fact, over the right part of the screen, some of the ropes are continuous with branches. So I think it's sort of the human world connecting to the natural world. And I think a lot of her work is about that.
I love her painting style too. It's just, do you know who the child is?
Yes.
Who is the child?
It's the daughter of
Lippman, I bet.
Beth
Lippman?
Yes,
thank
you. Beth Lippman.
I think it's funny. She always uses Beth Lipman's kids. Now the kids are teenagers, so I guess her stuff's going to get more grown up as we go. I don't know.
It's going to be the grandkids next.
That'll be the next set.
Was this, I'm curious, was this the work that Heller showed at our meetup a month or so ago?
Yes.
Oh, it is? Oh, that is. Okay, I thought the one from month had a panther.
Sorry?
I thought the one that Heller showed a month ago had a panther instead of a wolf.
No, this is the piece.
Oh, is it? Okay.
No.
I thought it was familiar. So for everybody, the Weisses love large wall pieces. So get
It's really spectacular.
Yeah, I know it is really spectacular. I had to put it up there. All right.
Thank you.
No problem. Nancy and Arthur Sherman, you're up again. They there?
They are. They're probably muted. Unmute yourself.
Unmute yourself, Nancy and Arthur.
Okay. This was the first piece of glass that we bought when we came to Florida. And I love birds. And it's been one of my favorites forever and ever. And people that come to the house also really, really like it and remark about it.
What's interesting about this piece is you can move the birds around. They're on bronze stems that go into the tree. So you can move the bluebird and put it up where the pink one is and the white one down where the yellow one is and move them around. So you have a different piece of glass from time to time.
Yeah, it was done by Luigi Mellara, M-E-L-L-A-R-A.
Where'd you find Luigi?
It's
At
interesting.
a gallery.
And we found him at a gallery in Naples, Florida, by accident. And I never heard of him before, and I've never seen a piece by him before, but I did go onto the internet and he's listed there. The birds are really beautiful. It's a pretty heavy piece, and it's about, I would say, 3.5 feet high and maybe 2 feet wide.
I put it in because it was just so bright and graphic and kind of happy. It just seemed I had to put it up there just to have
It's
that.
cheerful. It makes you feel good when you look at it. Yeah.
Comments from anyone? Okay, we're moving on. Thank you so much, guys, again.
Okay.
Don't forget to unmute your, now go back and mute yourself. Okay, David and Krina Rosen.
Hi, thank you, Marilyn. Thank you, Tim. This is an early piece by Deborah Moore, and I happen to love orchids, and it's like having something live right near our dining room table, and appreciate it so much. It's probably over 20 years old, and we got it at SOFA in Chicago, and it's called a Gracias spider orchid. So for years, we thought that the orchid was actually mounted on a banana leaf, but recently, in doing some more research, found that it actually isn't. It is an orchid leaf, and it's her interpretation, as a lot of people know, how she hunted orchids, and the coloration, which you can't see, is done by Frick. So the colors are very muted, and it's very delicate and beautiful. But I want to make a comment, Tim, that it hangs near a robin grebe, which is also from nature. And you mentioned that you had several submissions, but I wonder if anyone submitted a robin grebe with a wooden head, which is quite old in our collection. And the head was done by her husband, who was a woodworker, or is a woodworker.
He's a Finnish carpenter.
You're right. So it's a little different. It has that feeling of in the body of some thoughts that the sculpture would have. But, oh, maybe you can see a little bit of it.
Right there, okay.
Right, yeah, so it's very different from what you see now for the past maybe 15 years. But it's a very metaphorical, and the fact that the head is not of glass. So I just thought I would point it out.
And it's a full body sculpture.
Nice.
Yeah, thank you.
By the way, it's one of the prettiest Deborah Moores I've ever seen.
Oh, and it's a very early Deborah Moore.
We've had it about 18 years,
Yeah.
maybe 20.
But it was done prior to that time. Thank you.
She's old like I am. That's good.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, moving on. Any questions? All right, here we go. This is Diane Foreman here?
And I do.
You know if Diane Foreman's here, Marilyn?
Excuse me, I do not know that, but I can check. Diane, are you with us? No.
They own a chain of boutique hotels, Seattle, Chicago, New York, etc. And so for the lobby of one of their hotels, right outside the restaurant, this piece is sitting in there. This is my diversity in country. So that was nice of her to send that in. I appreciate that. That piece is 4 feet by 3 feet. It's a big, big piece. We couldn't lift it here. We had to actually have people come in to lift it because Michael and I, we're getting too old. J.G. Harrington. You there, J.G.?
I am here. I am here. So it seemed.
J.G. and I are the new president and vice presidents of the James Renwick Alliance. God help us. All right, so move on.
Yes, that's true. We are, and it's true. God help us. But in any event, besides traditional studio glass, Jerry and I collect paperweights. Something she's been doing since she was pretty young, and it seemed like on a talk about nature, we ought to have paperweights. So these are contemporary paperweights, which include natural themes, and these are really some of our favorites. Tim tricked me. I thought I was going to get one photo. He gave me 2 different ones instead, so I have to get the order correct. On the top row, it's Paul Stankard, Melissa Ayotte, and Gordon Smith. On the bottom row, it's a modern Baccarat, Christine Stankard, and Jim D'Onofrio, so all but one of them is American. Paul Stankard is a little different than usual. We think it was probably some kind of study. We have about a dozen of his pieces, and we have a couple of the studies, and we really like them. The oldest piece is the Baccarat, which is 1987. The biggest piece, the newest piece, is the one in the top middle, Melissa Ayotte, which we commissioned from her after the Wheaton online paperweight weekend in May, and it arrived like 2 weeks ago. But we like the nature themes, and if you look closely at the bottom right, you can see that it's actually raccoons eating eggs. Jim D'Onofrio had a whole raccoon series of them eating funny things. We decided not to buy the beer cans, but we got the eggs.
That's probably a good choice. I'm so, all of us probably, or many of us here, so miss going to Wheaton Village every June, like we used to every other year. And so this is making me really miss going to Wheaton again.
Well, we are going to have a Wheaton Village Zoom in August, so you may visit Wheaton Village from the comfort of your home in August.
I like that. All right.
You can look for them to, they may be reopening soon, 2 days a week, so fingers crossed.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. J.G. Harrington. Moving on. I got mini Higuchi, so I put this one in. Diane Phillips, you are the spokesman. Go for it.
Unmute yourself, Diane.
Okay. Most of you know Kimiyaki Higuchi's uses Pate de Verre, and she uses models from her own garden. The color, of course, the color photography of my iPhone doesn't really show the true colors, but it's a beautiful piece. The reverse side has a ladybug, and the interesting part about this piece is it's from 2003, and Jerry and I were at Habitat, and he loved this piece, and I loved a William Morris. So like he loved the more feminine piece, and I loved, the William Morris, and he won, but we both love it.
There you go.
I have to mention that J.G. Harrington and I were at the Higuchi's home and studio this last December, I believe it was, with Corning Museum of Glass. Amazing experience.
It was mind-blowing.
Okay, anyone else have a question or a comment on this? Okay, moving on. Thank you so very much, Diane. Jim Della, you're up.
Hello, this is by Demetra Theophanis and is entitled First Steps. And first of all, I should say that I'm a great gardener and spend several hours outside every day. And Demetra's flame-worked borosilicate glass nest and egg and includes also a little feather there. And this represents the birth of the first baby bird of the spring, which is my favorite season, and also symbolizes the coming of spring and the rebirth also of all of the bulbs and plants and flowers that have been hibernating over the winter. The piece itself is from 2007 and is about 4 inches high by a 9-inch diameter.
Is Demetra here?
I think so. Demetra, you want to say something?
Yeah, thank you, Jim. I think the title of this is sort of had two meanings because it was also my first steps as an artist. This was the first nest that I had made of any reasonable scale, and I probably held my breath the entire month that I was trying to make it, and was pleased that it came out and to have such a wonderful reception to it. So thank you very much, Jim, for sharing it.
Oh, beautiful piece.
Pleased to have it.
I'm so used to your leaf walls like you have behind you on your picture there. And so I hadn't been as familiar with the nest. So when Jim Della said this, I was like, oh, that's going in right away.
Thank you, Tim.
No problem. Moving on. Any comments? Okay, here we go. Gloria Neal, you're up.
Unmute yourself. Alan Burke asked me to remind people, but I can't get it to work to use your space bar to unmute yourself, and then put it down and hold it, but I've not been able to get it to work, but perhaps it will today.
Are Gloria and Neil here?
I think they are.
Maybe not. So
maybe not.
It's a small personal study.
No, they're not.
The spacebar works best with Apple. I'm not sure it works. On my Apple, it works real well.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't get it to work on mine.
Yeah, my Apple.
It works on my PC and it works on my iPad. I'm not sure, Marilee, that it works if you mute everybody as opposed to people muting themselves.
Okay, there you go.
And my computer, I just hold down the space bar and I'm unmuted.
There you go.
Fabulous. That's a great trick. Thank you, Alan Burke.
Okay, moving on. Here we go. This is from Bobby and Lynn Tenner. David Norton, go for it.
Now we know Bobby's here.
Bobby, unmute yourself, Bobby.
Yeah, I just unmuted. I'm sorry.
No problem.
When we saw this, we had not seen his work before, and we looked on the back, and it's all carved. So it's a really interesting piece because he has these boards that he orders from a company that is, the lights, the special lights, and so you don't get a light that's in the middle, and you get the lights, the little lights that are all around the edges, and so the light, the artificial light, it covers the whole piece. So when you turn it, the knob, you could make it any time of the day. It's really a spectacular piece. He's kind of new, I guess. We saw him at an art fair, so it was not even in a gallery at that time. Now I think he is he with Habitat? Aaron, is he with you?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I saw him 10 years ago at SOFA because he had a little bio saying he was a former hairdresser and had a whole little bio on him.
Oh, okay. I don't have that.
Yeah, I don't remember what gallery it was, but he's not in Habitat right now.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a piece of his, and I don't. Can you hear? Yeah, and we also got it at the Westchester Art Fair. But he did have one gallery representation at SOFA, but I'm not so sure. I haven't seen his work for a couple of years though.
Okay.
It's great work, and he was inspired by Miriam de Fiore, and I think studied with her as well.
Okay, thank you. I didn't know that.
All right, moving on. Thank you so much, Bobby, again. All right, Ellen and Mark. I know you're there, Ellen. Give a little Martin Blank love.
Well, I picked this piece because coming home from Florida, I'm a flower person. I was always in garden club and big gardens in the back and everything. We just came back from Florida last week, and there is not a bloom anywhere. The deer have just had a ball. So I am just looking at my indoor flowers, including one from Tim at my daffodils, which I never get to see when they bloom in the spring when I'm not here.
I didn't put that in, Ellen. I couldn't do it. There were too many of mine in it, so I didn't put that in.
I understand that, but incidentally, it's on a table again with the robin green right behind it with the boats, but I didn't take that picture. But the evening sun coming in, late afternoon, facing the west, just makes us glow, and we just love it.
Beautiful, nice scale, Martin Blank. So thank you so much. By the way, this piece was carried at Riley at SOFA. Jason Jacob already just checked in. So Riley Gallery had that. Okay, moving on. Any comments on Mr. Blank? Okay, moving on. John Roth, you're up.
Okay. This is a younger artist, Evan Kokler out of California. And if I'm not mistaken, and Bonnie can correct me, this may have been the first piece of glass that he sold. And we bought it, obviously. This represents a carnivorous plant. It's a pitcher plant from Indonesia. And it shows a symbiotic relationship. If you look closely, you can see there are several ants climbing on the plant. And what the ants do is they clean the plant and keep it slippery so other bugs fall right in. It seems the ants are very careful and never seem to have a problem with it. It's an interesting construction how he's put it together with wires on the inside that you can't see, which then hold the piece as it is. And this is a very realistic picture. If you go online to look at pitcher plants, this is what they look like. And there are a whole variety of them. We thought it was very interesting when we saw it. I think we found it at Wheaton the last time.
It was at Wheaton, and it was his first major show, and he's been doing very well since, and has been at several shows, and yeah, he's doing very well. But this was his first major show.
He was showing at Hive Gallery, and a very thoughtful, very talented young man.
Yes, very.
Is it all glass is the question, Bonnie
No,
John?
it's metal. Metal. The leaves
the
are
leaves
metal.
the leaves are metal, and the pitcher plant flower is glass.
It kind of connects there.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much. That's a neat one to show. Thanks so much, John. Moving forward. Brad and Sue, you're up. Explain this one.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
You'll see this in back of us. This piece is 40 by 40 no, rather 4 feet.
4 feet by 4 feet.
By 4 feet. We bought it at the AACG trip to Asheville. And Tim, I think, arranged for a group of glass artists from the Asheville and Penland area to have a big display at the Center for Craft. And we were just taken by the beauty of this piece. We didn't realize until it was explained to us what it actually is. This is sort of natural devastation. It is an aerial photograph to the left of the southern part of Lake Erie, and that is a harmful algae bloom. And it was caused by, it was sort of an environmental disaster caused by the effects of nature and too much rain and herbicides going into the lake, causing this growth of algae, which is really dangerous to people, to fish, to all of the everything that depends upon the lake. It's 90 pieces, individual pieces. They've been painted on the back with oil paint, and each one is in front of a piece of a mirror so that it reflects into the room. And this is Jennifer Bueno's interpretation of that satellite photograph. And she's made something really a beautiful landscape out of something that was really a natural disaster. It's gorgeous.
So I live on Southern Lake Erie in Toledo, Ohio, and we have these are very concerning all the time. And right now there is a algae bloom watch, which means you cannot go into Lake Erie. And if it gets much worse, they will forbid us from drinking the water. Do you happen to know where she's from?
Yeah.
She works at Penland.
Yeah.
She and her husband make different types of work together. Thor Bueno and Jennifer and the two kids, and they're right in the Penland area. And we really liked the piece. We didn't buy it when we first saw it in the show in Asheville, but it kind of haunted us. And we then called Jennifer and said we'd really like to buy it. And we bought it, and it was a real problem getting it here. So her husband kind of disassembled it and brought it up and started installing it, and everything was fine. And you'll see there are 90 pieces, and they're different shapes, and they have each has a separate bracket. So it's a very complicated piece. So he finished installing it, and then we were sleeping, and all of us.
No, we were eating.
Well, we were eating, and all of a sudden we hear something going bang, bang. And some of the museum wax hadn't hardened. And so some of the pieces were falling off onto the floor in our den. So we then had to speak to Thor and figure out what to do. And we had to put masking tape on many of the bottom pieces to make sure they stayed where they were until the museum wax hardened sufficiently. So we have a lot invested in this piece.
Yes, you do. You know, when they found out the AACG was going to Asheville that year, the Center for Craft put on a show called Glassville and Asheville, and invited all the Western North Carolina glass artists to this show. And that's where this one came from. Okay. Any comments? Moving forward. Arlene, are you here for this beautiful Richard Ritter piece? One of the prettiest Richard Ritters I've ever seen.
Arlene is here. You have to unmute yourself.
I had it in a bookcase, and there is no light. I have light coming from the bookcase, but this just did not show up. So we moved it near a window, and everything just sprouted. It's a gorgeous piece because I love the shape of it. It looks like 3 pieces with the Murini glass. And there's even some little bugs in there if you look close enough. There's a dragonfly and some really cute surprises.
Oh, that's a beautiful piece of his, honestly.
Yeah, thank you.
That includes the tour of nature with AACG, which obviously people in AACG love images of nature. So there we go.
That was great fun.
Mary Lee.
And Tim, Tate, thank you so very much. That was a wonderful and a huge amount of work. I hope you all know how much work it was. It was really a huge amount of work for him. So thank you very much, everyone, for attending. And let's see, I'm going to.
Thanks to all the presenters.
Yeah,
let's see. I was trying to get
back to the screen, Miss Mary Lee.
Okay, trying to. There we go. All right. Fabulous. Anyway, I just want to thank you all for your membership in AACG and for your attendance, and the artists for their wonderful work, and the collectors for buying it. So everybody have a safe time, and hopefully we'll see you next Friday. Next Friday is Dan Daly.
And also, does anyone have anything to say that I missed that I didn't hear? Any of the nature pieces? I forgot all that. Everybody has all these beautiful ones. I might have cut people off. I didn't mean to.
Great job.
Any
Very well
comments?
done. Good
Okay.
job, Tim. Very well
All
done.
righty. Thank
Good
you
job.
all, and we'll see you